table where we're just gonna, throw out some ideas about how youth can get involved in the legislative session. I'm Grace Johnson. I'm a senior at Helena High School, and I'm also a legislative organizer for Montana Youth Action.
Hi, my name's Ella Krumm. I'm a senior at Capitol High School, and I'm also a legislative organizer with Montana Youth Action.
So tonight, I'm excited. We're just going to throw out some introductions first off. So just going alphabetically, I'm going to start with Allison Reinhardt, who's actually the Montana Associated Students Lobbyist. Allison.
Thanks, Grace. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Reinhardt, and as Grace said, I'm the lobbyist for the Montana Associated Students. So MASS is comprised of presidents and vice presidents from campuses across the state. So I'm responsible for advocating and lending my voice to the interests of students across the university system. I am a senior at MSU in Bozeman studying political science and global health, and I will be graduating this spring. So I've been taking a few online classes from Helena during my work at the legislative session. I've always been involved in public service throughout high school and college. I was a 3-term senator for the Associated Students of Montana State University and served as the Montana delegate for the Henry Clay Center for Statesmanship, where I had the opportunity to write bipartisan immigration policy that I presented to think tanks in Washington, D.C. So I'm really interested in how thoughts and ideas transform into bills that legislators then move through the session. So I'm really excited to talk about civic engagement, especially for youth tonight. So thanks for having me here, Montana Youth Action.
Thank you, Allison. And now I'm going to throw it over to Jacob Torgerson, who is our Gen Z legislative candidates.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jacob Torgerson. I am a former candidate for Montana State Senate District 40, which is, right over here in Helena. It's pretty much the entirety of Powell County and, mid-Lewis and Clark County. I am also a first-generation college student, an urban native, and a working-class Montanan. I didn't come with a hugely prepped intro, so that's all I've got to say, but I'm very happy to be here with you, Grace. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jacob. And now we have Madison Hebner, who is a Forward Montana legislative staffer.
Yes, thank you. So just a brief introduction, if you haven't heard of Forward Montana, we're a nonprofit that works to engage young people civically in the political system. So I think there's some good overlap there. But yeah, I work as a organizer during the legislative session. So I am part of a team of 6 people, and we advocate for public policies that really reflect young Montanans' values. And we hope to remove barriers for youth participation in the legislature. My background is not really related to that at all, honestly. I actually graduated from MSU a couple years ago in microbiology, and I worked for the National Institute of Health for a bit during the pandemic, but then I joined Forward Montana in 2020, and I've been having a great time ever since, part of a team of amazing people who are really fired up about getting young people involved. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. And finally, last but not least, Representative Moffie Funk, who represents House District 82.
Hi, Moffie Funk. Yeah, that's one of the things I do as a representative. It's pretty full-time right now, obviously, and I'm one of the people that all of you lobby, right, to come and tell me how I should vote. And I'm very happy to hear from you. I grew up mostly overseas. My dad was a foreign service officer. And then as an adult with my family, we also lived overseas, but moved back to Montana. Well, I'm not a Montana native, but I married a Montanan. But before most of you were born, I think, 1995. So, and it was great. I had itchy feet for a long time because I thought, I traveled all my life, never lived in one place more than a couple of years. But I'm so glad we stayed here. It's been. Montana is a really unique place. And I was I am retired, a middle school social studies teacher, which was fabulous. And I always told my students that it was more fun to vote than drive. That didn't go over necessarily. They didn't, but you know, you do get, driving just becomes old hat, but voting is always so exciting. So I hope that, and many of them have written me when they turned 18 and said they registered, which just makes my day. And yes, I had the honor of working with the Helena Youth against gun violence last session and trying to get a bill across the finish line. And it was an extraordinary effort. I worked with a lot of kids. The two main people were Amanda Penley, who I'm sure you know, and Clara McCrae. And I think they got in trouble at school for the amount of time they spent at the legislature. That I wrote a few notes to their principal because they walked the halls and talked to every senator, every representative. I'd bring them out to, it was just, it was so inspiring for me. It was an extraordinary experience and one of the best of my life for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Moffie. So I'm going to throw it over to Ella.
Yeah, so we'll get started with our questions now. We have some questions that are for everyone, and anyone or everyone can answer them. And then later we'll move into specific questions asked by MTYA members. So our first question is, how are you currently involved with the 2021 legislative session?
I think maybe Jacob, that one's for you, because we kind of said that in our, what are you doing with the?
I mean, you know, a lot of what I'm doing is using my platform to, you know, to bring or to popularize the bills that are going through the legislature, because, you know, we need to have more people who are my age sharing that stuff. I've been following a lot of specific bills, you know, House Bill 102, House Bill 112, which failed, thank God, House Bill 113, which failed, thank God, and Senate Bill 159, which is going through it still and wouldn't be the greatest for working class Montanans. You know, because of COVID, this session hasn't been as accessible for me. I have a grandfather with stage 4 COPD, so you know, if I catch it and he catches it, it's not great. The odds aren't great for him. Other than that, I have just been listening in, watching the session happen, kind of taking a back seat during this session. Hopefully I'll be up there one day soon. We'll see. You know, other than that, nothing else.
I can hop on here. So this is actually Ford, Montana's first time having like a full-on team of lobbyists for the legislative session. So that's really exciting. And there's a team of 6 of us, of legislative organizers. And we all focus on a different issue area. So those are climate justice, voting rights, LGBTQ plus equality, and economic justice. They're kind of broad. And if you guys do follow our newsletter, you know, we kind of take on a lot more than that. But what we do is, one, we directly lobby legislators like Moffie, try to affect their vote by giving public comment, relationship building, and direct accountability work. But we also have a really big grassroots education and engagement aspect of our work. And this is where like we really bring in the youth. So we have a decent social media following, and we use that to bring calls to action about bills that we think young people care about, as well as break down barriers of the complicated processes of the legislative session, and really encourage young people to learn more about it and to get involved and not be scared by how convoluted and complicated it seems on the surface. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, and we're very grateful. We are very grateful. It's are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's busy work, long days, but it's awesome.
Days, yeah. Well, and obviously I serve up there, and unfortunately, Jacob, 112 is not dead. It went over to the Senate. We were able to kill 113. I sometimes think the phrase "to kill a bill" can be very, very unfortunate because of some of what's actually in the bill. I'm on business and labor, So I'm also a very strong labor person. So a lot of right to work bills and diminishing unions, which, as you all know, how Montana was built was on unions. So that's a tough one. Education and agriculture. And you'd think, and I am urban, but we had 3. It's just amazing. Well, I'll let other people talk, but I want to tell you about these bills that were in agriculture that my head was exploding. And I hope you all will do some lobbying to try and get them passed, because they're not going to.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've been up at the Capitol in the past few weeks. I lobbied for House Bill 102 and 112, and I've voiced some concerns over some of the income bills, tax relief ones that are going through. But on any given day, I'm just watching the 8 a.m. meetings, and then I'll attend the floor sessions. I think it's really valuable to just be there when I can and when it feels safe, so that I can run into representatives and senators in the hallways, because I really think that's where my voice is best heard, when they can actually see a student up there. And I'm just emphasizing to them that while, Jacob, you can't be at the Capitol, that there are over 40,000 students here in Montana that want their voices to be heard. And so if I can just be the face of a few of those students, I'm trying to do that. I have a list of priorities. So my focus seems wide, but I'm focused on educational funding and long-range building programs. So Montana Tech needs steam tunnels. They need a renovation there, or I hear it's gonna explode or be terrible for heating at that university. And then I'm focused on mental health services for students and landlord voting rights, a wide array. So I've just been tracking the bills. I'm amazed at how many go through and how many pop up. So thank you all for your work on lobbying and stuff.
I'm actually very thrilled you're doing that landlord stuff, because 2 sessions ago, we had a husband-wife team. One was in the Senate and one was in the House. They owned quite a bit of property in Billings, and they got passed one horrible, in my opinion, landlord bill. I mean, the way that, particularly for students, I mean, if you had a university student, the rights you lost, and you would think that that would be a conflict of interest, but it didn't seem to matter. So I hope we can do something more for the housing, because yeah, tenants, I know you can have some bad tenants, but yeah, they need to have their rights, and they keep trying to diminish them. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks for all your answers. We'll move on to our next question. Why is youth engagement in the legislature important?
Because you have the loudest voices, and we've got to hear them. Half the voices there are so old and cracky, and I'm including myself in that. So we need you all.
I would just emphasize again, students' voices are so important. I find that when I call someone out of the blue and I'm a student at MSU and this is what I think on this topic, I swear they take more time to listen to what I have to say than if I have my mom right next to me call the same legislator. And so I can't emphasize enough how important youth's voices are during the legislative session. Additionally, when you walk around the halls of the Capitol, as Representative Funk said, there's a lot of people that have had a lot of life experience. And I think that's really valuable to have. And at the same time, so many young people are impacted by the bills going through. And I think that they deserve to be recognized and to have a voice in legislation that impacts them. And that's, students need to be involved.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, going around with the students 2 sessions ago with this, well, no, just last session, sorry, 2 years ago, there was occasionally somebody who could be a little patronizing, but by and large, absolutely not, because, well, these two people were kind of extraordinary too, but even when you all came and testified on the bills, and it was this long, I think that there was a degree of respect and that I was worried about, but I was so pleased to see. And I think because often people can be somewhat dismissive, they saw the passion and the preparation. I mean, they could answer any question. And I think that was, yeah, they certainly impressed every person they met. And I think that's, and it was on an issue that certainly is important to young people. But I think with what you all are doing, it's a wide array, as you say, as you were saying, Allison, there's so many topics that you are following. And that's, I think, what's important. It's not just about legalizing marijuana or making sure that student debt is a big thing. Yeah, and there was a good student debt. Yeah, anyway, never mind. It's kind of a rough session for people on my side of the aisle.
Thank you, Moffie. And that was I feel like the perfect segue into our next question, which is, why should youth care about what's going on at the Capitol?
In my opinion, I think that youth should care about what's going on up at the Capitol because it really, truly affects us in every single way. I mean, these decisions being made today are going to affect us tomorrow. They're going to affect, whether we live in Montana or not. The legislature brings up, it helps create good opportunities, good paying jobs, and good public educational institutions. If our generation uses its powerful voice and makes it to the polls and to the legislature, some big changes are bound to happen. I think that really with the amount of young people we have coming of age in the next couple years, there is a possibility for some truly great changes in our state. And that starts in the legislature. That starts with legislative interest. I ran for office as an 18-year-old, and I don't think that I'm one of the only people in my generation who are interested in our legislature.
We do have we've got quite a few young people, actually. I think there are more younger people. There's Braxton Mitchell from up in the Flathead that I think he's just 18.
He's 20.
Pardon?
He's 20.
Is he 20? Is
Yeah.
he 20? Yeah.
20,
Did you? And he's actually, I mean, he was one of the few with the bill that I brought I didn't bring, I'd worked on it during the interim, but that we brought for increasing access to food, to meals in the schools that did not get out of committee, but he voted for it because he knew people that, but then on the other hand, he definitely voted for 102. He thought that was a great idea. He was remote one day and his picture was with an AK, holding a AK-47, which might have been a little inappropriate. In fact, the leadership asked him to take it down. But and yeah, I saw Mallory Stromswald is only, she's, how old is she? Do you all know? She's
18. Yeah, she's a couple months older than I am. I've had the pleasure of getting to talk with her a little bit.
She's taken some tough votes.
I know. I've seen. Yeah, she really has.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just, yeah, I think your voices are important, and it's also about voting. And I think, as I'm sure you all, as motivated and active as you are, it's so frustrating to hear election after election that the 18 to 35 group has the lowest percentage of voting. And I understand 100%. I understand why anybody, but particularly maybe young people, would feel disenfranchised, would feel what difference does it make, because it does seem as if there are these, you can work so hard and other things happen. So I don't, it breaks my heart when people don't vote, but I understand it. And the thing is, in a place like Montana, it really makes a difference. You know how close well, not so much this last time, but in a lot of races, how close that margin can be. And so you really have the opportunity to make your voice heard. And I don't know how to make people, young or old, want to vote when they just aren't interested in voting. I've tried all different tactics. I'd love to hear your ideas. How did you, because you all did a lot of voter registrations, right? I know that's one of Ford Montana's big things. Yeah. And did you run across, and we have such great voting laws that they're worried about what they're going to do. I know when I did a lot of volunteering for Ford Montana, this was back in the early part of this century, and they had bunny ears. I think they don't do the bunny ears anymore, but it was great because then people, and one of the best times was when you would register a felon, because we don't tell them that once they are out of jail, they can vote. And in a lot of states, you can't. Once you've been in prison, you've lost your right to vote for the rest of your life, which that's a great way to make people feel a part of a community. And I'm being sarcastic. It's not a good way, but they should have in the packet when you leave prison, they should have a voter registration card.
Yeah, I would just add that in addition to youth voting, one of the best ways to get involved at the Capitol is just to ask questions and to not be shy to reach out and to call a representative or a senator and ask them what their bill means. Because sometimes it's really hard to understand the subtext or what the bill is actually trying to accomplish. But this conversation reminds me of a discussion I had with Senator Walt Sales earlier this week. And we talked about succession planning and how many rural Montana students are, at least that I know, are getting really worried about what they're going to do in the next year when they graduate from college, and they don't necessarily want to go home to the ranch or to the farm, and they want to go out into the world, but what do you do? And so I guess I would emphasize one of my key takeaways for this call is that youth being engaged at the Capitol and in voting and in all legislative stuff is so important, because that's what is determining our future as Montanans. And I just would want people to know they have such power over what Montana will look like in 20 years, 50 years.
Well, and also when you are just out of, or in college or just out of college, to have that, to be able to look back and say, this is a program that really made a difference in my life. And this, because that's what we're talking about so much, is because it doesn't work for everybody. And what kinds of experiences do you want in high school and in college that will, or in with a community college, in a program? It's whatever you're doing, what worked best. And that's the ones that you can tell, because when a bunch of people who aren't even teachers or educators decide that this is what should be taught in the school, this is what you should do. Yeah, it's better to have young people. And particularly with the CTE, that what you talked with Senator Sales. I'm so cross he went over to the Senate, because he was great to have in the House.
Yeah, I think the student experience and letting legislators know what it's like is so important, because I look at the education committees and I'm so thrilled that people are serving on them. And at the same time, I want them to hear a 16-year-old's perspective as well as like a 21-year-old's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And even, you know, in middle school, I mean, because we're talking about what can we do in for middle school students to help them, you know, not just think I can't wait till I turn 16 so I can drop out. And support, because it's tough. It is so tough now that there's so much coming at young people. By the time you get in college, you're probably a little more grounded, but oh my gosh, the stuff coming at young people, middle school, it's nonstop. And to try to focus on one thing is very hard. Not one thing, but you know, to stay focused. And how has it been this year with you all? It's just been the students on here with the pandemic. Has it been helpful to be involved in politics?
I know for me, it's definitely been hard. Online school, and right now Helena High is doing hybrid, you know, so 2 days in, 3 days out. It's kind of a mess right now, but we're getting through it. So
yeah, and you know, I'm a freshman in college this year, and online learning is difficult to say the least. At least for me, you know, everyone learns different, but you know, I can say that online learning has been very difficult to stay motivated in. You know, I'm a little scared for everyone in the Helena School District. At least I think we're going back to 4 days a week here pretty soon, and you know, a lot of teachers, a lot of educators I've talked to have found this, you know, to be not the funnest thing for them. My good friend Shannon Thomas is one of the educators in Helena that I, you know, she's one of the ones that I most am worried about. She's been, you know, she barely let her daughter, who was my best friend, see me on her Christmas break because, you know, they're taking COVID that seriously. And, you know, in conclusion, I'm just worried about our educators who have not yet gotten vaccines, who should have gotten vaccines before, you know, multiple groups of people who have gotten vaccines already. Just because these, you know, teachers are a front line, they're the cornerstone in all of this. And
Well, that would be a great thing, because I've tried to working on a petition, because yes, we've called teachers heroes for the past 11 months, and then oh yeah, now back of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And the CDC has come out and said, you know, that you know, you can have the schools safe without the vaccine for teachers, but it's still not right. So yeah, that would be a great thing for you all to push. Just get people to call the governor's office and say, change that. We want our teachers safe so we can go back to school, so we can feel safe at school, and we don't have to worry about them. You know, we have to go back and forth because there's not somebody to be in the classroom with us. That would be awesome. Actually, that would be so terrific.
My experience has been similar to everyone else's here. Now we can start moving into our individual questions. The first one is for Moffie. What is your favorite part about working closely with youth in the legislature?
Well, look at you. What isn't the best part? It's you know, because people like to talk about it, and so it's not just you all. I mean, working with you on that bill, it was such an honor for me, because to have people be that passionate and care that much and work so hard and be so pragmatic. I mean, that was the thing at the same time. But yeah, I was, and they brought the idea to me. And I do often have constituents bring ideas to me, but that was the best part, to have them. And we actually, to be perfectly frank, we worked very, very hard trying to find I'm a Democrat, trying to find a Republican to carry it because we thought that might help. But these young people, I mean, this was what I saw happen. These young people talked and they got, they got them to get it out of committee and then get it out of the House, which was, nobody believed that they could get a gun bill out of the judiciary. And we did, or they did. I did, it was extraordinary. So, yeah, it was just a wonderful experience. There was nothing that wasn't fabulous about it, except that, we didn't get quite across the finish line.
We were one vote away, Moffie, one vote away from blasting it to the Senate floor.
I know. And it was just, yeah. And and I think it was also, that was the thing, because it was politics. They wanted to kill it. And so even though it was just an education thing, when it got to the Senate, they put it in judiciary, where they knew they could kill it. And then it just got late in the session. So, and that part of politics, well, if you win, it's fun. But if you don't, it's not so much.
Thank you, Representative Funk. So our next individual question is for Jacob Torgerson, and it is, what challenges have you faced running for office at your age?
The biggest thing I think I faced was a lot of people simply discounted us from the beginning. I mean, a lot of people, I heard a lot of, well, you seem great, but you're a little young for me to vote for. It was a lot of that. We worked so hard. We outraised our opponents. We made it so many calls. It was really something. But the second biggest challenge I faced was opening a bank account. I was 17 when I started. So, being a minor, I could not have my own business account. So, we solved it, obviously. I ran the campaign and everything. My mom was just my stand-in treasurer for a small part, which is a little embarrassing.
No, it's not.
I love my mother. That's not anything against her.
Yeah, no, our laws could have stymied you, and you figured it out. So that was
we
fine.
figured it out. And we ran a campaign. We sure did.
And I do have to say, because I work with a group that helps legislative, everyone was blown away by how hard Jacob worked and just the tenacity. Yeah, it was very impressive. Because remember, this is when COVID started too.
I know, that was the other thing, was COVID was a huge challenge. We weren't able to get on the doors, which, anyone who knows anything about Montana politics knows that it's a ground game kind of state. You got to knock the doors. You have to see people face to face for them to really, know they want to vote for you. And my opponent, who's a great lady, I greatly admire her. She'd already gotten to knock doors. She'd seen people face to face. So I think it was definitely an uphill battle from the beginning, just because of, COVID. That was one of the biggest challenges, definitely.
All right, we'll move into our next individual question, which is for Madison. What kind of issues have young people been able to make the biggest impact on so far in this session?
Yeah, young people have been really a force to be reckoned with already this session. I know we've talked about it already, but we've really seen how these young people have turned out to contact their legislators and ask for their yes or no vote on bills. And we've literally watched it change legislators' votes, like in front of our eyes. Specifically, I'll just talk on one thing. A legislator on a committee, so I'll call her out, Mallory Stromswold, from Billings, the 18-year-old we talked about, was likely to vote on party lines for House Bill 113, which was the bill that would prohibit certain medical procedures for trans youth. But after receiving over 1,000 messages from her constituents, and many of these being young people. She actually ended up voting against this bill. And I think that was all because of young people. And it also was the one that later died on the House floor. And again, I think this was really because of young people. So that's just one specific instance where it has changed the outcome, like right in front of our eyes, due to young people in the state.
That's super cool. Thank you for sharing. So the next question is for Allison, and yours is, what is your proudest moment from your lobbying experience?
Thanks for that question, Grace. I would have to say a few weeks ago, I was in the hallways and a legislator came up to me and the other student lobbyists that I work with, and they were pretty disappointed in the testimony that I gave in committee and that I was not a fan or in support of their bill. And so we listened to him, and I think it was a really productive conversation, and I'm really proud of how I handled that situation, because I wasn't expecting to have a run-in with this legislator, and I kept my emotions out of it, and I felt like I clearly outlined the student perspective, and I've been working the past few weeks on trying to conceptualize what my role is. I don't represent MSU or the University of Montana. I represent campuses across the state, and Montana Tech is very different than the University of Montana. Dawson Community College is different than MSU. And so I've really been trying to figure out when I am approached and when I don't testify the way that they think some students believe. I want to make sure that I emphasize to them that I am here on behalf of the associated students of each campus. So I represent the student governments. They all come together and then they form a collective decision that informs my approach to certain bills. And so I'm really proud of how I've been handling those situations, and I have the perfect quip for if I'm ever questioned about not representing every single student in Montana. I can say, do you represent all 100% of your constituents? I don't think so. Everyone has different opinions. And so I'm just trying to focus on what I know and what student governments know students' experiences are. So I've been proud of the way I'm handling those situations, because I'm a people pleaser all the way through, and I can't always please everyone.
No, don't be a people. Yeah. May I, is it okay if I ask a question? Yeah. Okay. So how do you decide which bills? Is there a group that comes together and say, we'll oppose this bill and we'll support this one? Or do you don't have to make that decision just on your own?
No, I get to inform. So I have a legislative action committee that's under the Montana Associated Students, and this committee has representatives from the different campuses, and they decide as a committee what to do. So I'm given a list of priorities, and we see if the specific bills fit into those priorities. And I get to offer my opinion and my feedback on them, but I'm not the only one deciding what bills to testify or support. So thanks for that question.
All right. Thank you for all your answers to the questions submitted by Montana Youth Action members. We'll move into our final question now, which is, what is some advice you have for youth wanting to make an impact?
I feel that's it's, if they already want to, just try not to get discouraged, because it is, I mean, and right now, it's because we're really in the minority, my party. And so it's very discouraging in deciding what you're going to fight for and what you're, trying to balance all these things, because it's tough. And so for young people, I think just exactly, I mean, you're the ones to go out and tell them, do this. It's because it's fun, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is. It is a lot of fun, and get to know your. Montana's amazing. You can walk those halls at the Capitol and talk to people and go in and nobody closes or almost nobody closes the door, because we're small, and so you really can make an impact here. And yeah, gosh, I just am so impressed, because it's a tough so many, as I said earlier, so much coming at you, and so hard to so much. I always tell my students, my generation really screwed up, but I sleep at night because you all will fix it. and look at this. I know you will, and I will be doing anything you want me to help you fix it, because I really apologize.
Some advice I'd give to youth wanting to make a difference is to get involved. That is like the step that so many people don't take. I mean, it's reaching out to campaigns, it's getting to know your community, it's attending central committee meetings, which are so important, because that is the most local level of a party. That is where the rubber meets the road, as one would say. I really, really, really recommend looking up who your state legislative candidate is in your House and Senate district, because it's so important to reach out to these candidates, to get to know them. And, if you like them, campaign for them. If you want to be involved in the legislature, I mean, that's a first foot in the door. Another thing would be to, send in written testimony to committees as a student or as a member of this community. I think that there's so much one can do that just not a lot of young people know is there. Or, not a lot of young people really feel like they can get involved in that way. But the truth is, anybody can get involved. I ran for office at 18. If I ran for office at 18, anyone can make 50 phone calls for their state legislative campaign.
I'd love to tackle this one. Okay, first of all, shameless plug. You can always intern at Forward Montana and other awesome nonprofits across the state. So that's a really great way to get involved. And of course, like what Jacob was saying, it's so important to find out who your legislator is. I write mine all the time, and they're probably sick of me, but it does make a difference. So that's really important. You can always give public comment. You can write in your local paper. The list goes on and on. But my personal advice is do not let anyone ever shut you down. Your voice as a young person is so powerful. And I know sometimes people can make you feel inferior for being young and inexperienced, but what really even is experience? I mean, you live it every single day. So your life and experiences and your passionate opinions make you more than qualified to fight for change. So don't ever let anyone hold you back. That's my advice.
I would just add on, I have kind of 3 ways that I think youth can be most impactful, at least during this legislative session. And the first is don't be shy. There's so many avenues to get involved, and don't worry about reaching out to a legislator. Just call them, and you'll never know. It might lead to a 30-minute conversation that you were not expecting, but just don't be shy and reach out. And then I would pick a few issues that are really important to you, and then track bills that relate to those issues. I think that's a great way to kind of understand what's going on and then to narrow it down, because I think at least it can be overwhelming to see the sheer amount of bills and resolutions going through, and trying to figure out which ones pertain to you is a good way to tackle that. And then finally, another plug, please use me as a resource. I just want legislators to know that there are so many students in Montana that have amazing opinions and thoughts. And I've been grateful to see Grace and Isaac and Charles up at the Capitol, but there are so many ways, as Madison was saying, to get involved. So sign up for written testimony. You can virtually testify, and then I can give you my information if you want it, and I can help you get engaged. So thank you all.
Yeah, and as Allison said, I mean, legislators in Montana are painfully accessible. One of my favorite interactions I ever had with a legislator was with Senator Dianne Sands. I mean, she is now one of my favorite people to talk to. She's hilarious. But, you know, as a page, I reached out to her one day and I said, hi, I really, really admire the work you've done in the legislature for LGBTQ people in Montana. I would love to get to hear your story and to get to know you. And we did. You know, when I was running, she was one of, you know, she was someone who I admired greatly, and she still is someone who I admire greatly. But yeah, reach out to your legislators. They'll answer, I promise. If you have a great one, I promise you. And in
what?
everyone.
Oops. Sorry. What a great story to end tonight, honestly. Thank you all so much. I feel like we had so many great thoughts and ideas, and I know I'm motivated at least. So Ella, will you end the live on Facebook? Yeah. And if everyone could just stay for one more second. All right. So thank you all again for coming tonight, especially on a wild Friday night. We appreciate you coming and talking about some youth involvement. So yeah, thanks for all you're doing.
I thank you. I thank you for all you're doing. You all inspire and blow me away. It just is awesome. Thank you so much.
Your guys' whole organization is absolutely amazing, and I'm amazed by I'm inspired by you young people who had started this great youth outreach program, nonpartisan youth outreach program. I mean, you guys have people from all sides of the spectrum, and I just think that is absolutely amazing. And you know, round of applause for you guys, because it's very hard to do that. It's very hard to get people from all sides of the spectrum, especially at a young age.
Well, I think that's of the many things that I admire, because after Parkland and the rallies were planned, and then, you know, a lot of places that was, well, now what do we do kind of thing. And look, this is 3 years later, and you guys are just as, you're more motivated, and not just on that, you grew it into an even larger organization, and to stay motivated and energized. I mean, that just impresses the heck out of me. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're so inspired by you all over here at Fort Montana. So never hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Grace and Ella. You guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. All right. Well, everyone enjoy the rest of your nights, and hope to see you